Hi folks, this is your NWIS Planning Outlook taking you into the weekend and beyond. A complicated and fairly unsettled weather story is around as we go through the next week or so, and just to take a look quickly at the big picture, this is a chart that represents the surface pressure patterns, the white isobars that we see, and the colours are temperatures at what we'd say are middle levels in the atmosphere, the troposphere, where the weather happens. Now that is a rather cool body of air that's over us at the moment with low pressure toward the north and west of Scotland. That zone of cooler air will sort of rotate around itself through the days ahead, ultimately allowing a push of much warmer air to get drawn in from the south, but then destabilising into something thundery as that trough of low pressure comes swirling back around on itself as we go onwards through this weekend, and that cooler and rather unsettled weather pattern is then looking likely to be around across the country as we go into next week. So any warm weather is looking quite short-lived at the moment. Now this chart shows you the accumulating rainfall total as we go forwards over a few days. Now the numbers on the chart are a bit small, but keep an eye on the colour scheme at the bottom for the general story that will play out. And as we go through Wednesday into Thursday, there'll be areas of showers around, some bursts of rain in places, but just look across towards Ireland and southwestern parts of Scotland as rainfall totals there start to mount up as we go through Thursday evening through the night into Friday. A few spots getting 30 to 50 millimetres of rain as we go through that time. So some wet weather coming into Western Scotland later on this week. As we go through the weekend, there's the risk of some scattered thundery downpours, not easily modelled by the forecast models at this stage, so that could be a bit hit and miss in terms of who gets what through the weekend. But the general message as we go onwards into next week is that things are looking pretty unsettled, and some high rainfall totals to come through over a few days with showers, bursts of rain, maybe some longer spells of rain for some. But overall, this is the accumulation in total by the time we get to the end of next week, and you can see how there's some pretty wet weather across much of Scotland, the far north maybe seeing less, also across Cumbria into West Wales as well, seeing some fairly high rainfall totals. The message then is a rather unsettled story continuing over the next 10 days. Now it has been a cool start to July so far, but things will be warmer, and this is the temperature in relation to average as we go over 5 days through until the start of next Monday. And you can see how things are a shade above the long-term averages, which means things will just feel that little bit warmer. Not as hot as it will get across central parts of Europe for a few days, but warmer than this week so far. We're not looking for any heat waves in the forecast though over the next week or so, with temperatures still only close to average really as we head through towards the middle of July across the British Isles. Here's how things look on the synoptic charts then through the next few days. And Wednesday sees low pressure toward the northwest of Scotland, that's producing showery conditions, some heavy bursts, the risk of isolated thunder and lightning in there through the afternoon, particularly inland and towards eastern regions, a scattering of showers passing west to east on the breeze across England and Wales. We will see the lighter winds overall across the Highlands. Thursday sees low pressure developing to the west of Ireland and a series of fronts sweeping in quite quickly. The wind will strengthen from the southwest, becoming gusty and up to gale force around western mountains later in the day. Some showers and patchy rain ahead of that frontal system across the Highlands, 1 or 2 heavy bursts towards the north and east by the afternoon, but that heavier rain will be setting in quite quickly from the southwest later. England and Wales getting away with a mainly dry and bright day, feeling quite warm and a bit more humid than previous days. Focusing in on that rain coming in from the southwest into Scotland though through Thursday afternoon, and that already getting in then to Dumfries and Galloway and across the islands and coastal sea locks around Arran up to Mull through the afternoon. As we head onwards into the evening, that's up to about 6 p.m, that heavier rain becoming more extensive across the western and southwestern Highlands and further also across the southern uplands as well. Rain getting into Cumbria and some patchy rain associated with that into West Wales too. The heaviest of the rainfall though very much focused across west and southwest Scotland, as mentioned, with those high totals coming through as we head onwards into Thursday night. Some heavy rain constant then as we go through the overnight hours, accompanied by gale force winds 50 miles per hour with stronger gusts across those mountains in the west through Thursday night into the early hours of Friday. Smaller amounts of rain further north and east, but that heavy rain is around through to about dawn, then tending to break up somewhat, but leaves a legacy of patchy rain and some heavy bursts in there at times through into Friday morning. The wettest conditions across more western regions and lighter and patchier rain further north and east. But a lot of cloud cover shrouding many mountains on Friday morning to quite low elevations and sticking around much of the day across most of the west coast and the islands. Some patchy rain and some further bursts of rain locally in places then through Friday daytime, tending to break up somewhat, but areas around Loch Lomond, the Southern Highlands, may just struggle with some rain on and off even into the afternoon. A warm day though, with the airflow coming up from the south, the sunshine that breaks through, particularly over England and Wales, will really feel very warm and humid. That's how the chart looks on Friday, with a complicated series of fronts which are pushed northwards and then back westwards out into the Atlantic, circulating around the low well out to the west of Scotland. But it's the low which is southwest of Ireland that's still very much in play as we go into the weekend. The warm and humid air ahead of that, and then the destabilising atmosphere as we get fronts just trying to push their way in. Saturday is going to be a very complicated one then at this stage to get any detail out of the forecast. It is going to be warm. It will have been warm overnight and into the daytime, humid as well, also very windy. Just look how close together the isobars are across Scotland in particular. That could be gale force winds through Friday night into Saturday daytime across the mountains. Very gusty conditions, so despite the warmth, do be aware of those strong winds. Some areas of cloud, but also a good amount of sunshine. But with that unstable atmosphere in place, we have the potential for some clusters of thunderstorms, possibly severe storms developing in places. But those are going to be very hit and miss in terms of where they are. So forecasting detail for those at this stage is very uncertain. But be aware of that risk of some thunderstorms developing during the day on Saturday, almost anywhere at this stage across the country. By Sunday, it's likely that the warmest of the air will have been pushed away as a cold front comes through, but it will still tend to feel quite humid. The temperatures may have just come down a bit, and the atmosphere is still going to be unstable. So although there'll be some dry and bright spells, there's always going to be the risk, I'm afraid, of some thundery downpours, and again, possibly some severe thunderstorms in places where these may just develop. But hit and miss once more, so keep a close eye on the forecast as we head towards the weekend. Finally, thinking about the longer range outlook, and although it's complicated, there's a few pattern trends that we can see. Low pressure is still expected to be nearby then as we go through next week. The blue colours on this chart indicating lower than average pressure over a 7-day period. Areas of high pressure are away from us further to the east across Europe and further out over the North Atlantic. We stay quite close to low pressure according to the forecast modelling even beyond mid-month. The attempting builds of high pressure are struggling on the models at this stage. We'll see how that plays out. I still suspect we do get some better weather as we go a bit further beyond the middle of the month, but we're still quite close to a low which is due to be to the southwest of us, and that may be an ongoing trend as we see the later stages of July with low pressure to the south and southwest of Britain, higher pressure more likely to be around Scandinavia and to the north. So we're not likely to see westerly winds, we're likely to see circulating air masses coming in from the south and the southeast. With that could come some warm and humid conditions more often, but also the scope for thunderstorms at times, particularly in the south of Britain, greater risk of being unsettled, further north, a greater chance of being drier more often. Western Scotland, perhaps comparatively drier overall, apart from odd days where some thunderstorms develop. Again, we're not likely to see those westerly winds, we're more likely to get those south and southeasterlies. Even into the start of August, those patterns look very similar. High pressure to the north, low pressure to the south. That would, again, just give this recipe for humid and quite thundery conditions, the greatest risk, again, towards the south. Plenty going on then. Hope that's given you something to work on for the days and weeks ahead. Keep a close eye on those latest forecasts then. Thanks for watching today. Bye for now.